Arbiter stared at the empty screen in his chamber aboard the Council flagship. For 3 months, nothing had come from the Sol system. No radio signals, no lightspeed transmissions, no quantum bursts. Just silence. Complete and total silence. "They've done it," his aide whispered beside him. "The humans have finally destroyed themselves." Nodded slowly. It wasn't surprising. Category 7 species always ended the same way. Too aggressive, too violent, too stupid to see past their own primitive instincts. The Council had 37 such species over the. None had survived past their nuclear age. Humanity had lasted 73 years under quarantine, longer than most. "Prepare a salvage fleet," ordered. "The Sol system has valuable resources. We'll claim them for the Council." 5 dreadnoughts entered human space 2 weeks later. Each ship stretched 3 kilometers from bow to stern, armed with weapons that could crack a planet's crust. Admiral commanded the fleet from her flagship, the Eternal Justice. She'd done this before, 16 times, entering dead systems, the ruins, claiming what remained. Earth appeared on their screens. The blue marble hung in space, peaceful and intact. Orbital stations drifted in their regular patterns. Automated systems blinked with running lights. Everything looked normal, except for one detail that made blood run cold. There were no life signs. Billions of humans gone, the cities still had power, the farms still operated, the factories still produced, but every human had vanished. "Send scouts to Mars," commanded. "Check the asteroid belt colonies. Find me a body, living or dead." Mars was the same. Empty colonies with lights still burning. Food synthesizers running on schedule. Children's toys left in the middle of games. Like everyone had simply stepped outside for a moment and never returned. The asteroid mining operations confused them most. Thousands of automated facilities all working perfectly. Ore processors running at full capacity. But the ore wasn't being shipped anywhere. It was being stockpiled. "They're preparing for something," the tactical officer said. "Look at these numbers. They've mined enough raw materials to build 100 ships." "Impossible," said. "We've monitored this system for 70 years. They barely have orbital capability. They can't build." The sensors screamed. Ships appeared on every side of the fleet, not primitive human vessels. These were sleek, dark things that seemed to drink in light. Their hulls were covered in angles that made no sense, geometry that hurt to look at. "How many?" shouted. 40, 50, counting more. "They're still appearing. How are they doing this?" The human ships didn't communicate. They didn't demand surrender. They simply opened fire. The first dreadnought died in seconds. Beams of compressed matter tore through shields that had never failed before. The ship broke apart, atmosphere venting into space like blood from a wound. Straining took over. "Evasive pattern Theta, return fire, get us out of." 2 more dreadnoughts exploded. The human weapons weren't just powerful. They were precise. Every shot hit critical systems. Power cores, shield generators, life support hubs. The humans knew exactly where to aim. "Jump," screamed. "Emergency jump now." The Eternal Justice tore a hole in space and fell through. Behind them, the 4th dreadnought vanished in a ball of fire. Only one other ship made it out. The Sacred Truth, badly damaged and bleeding atmosphere. In the council chambers, stood before the 500 assembled species and told them what had happened. Many laughed. Some called him a liar. A Category 7 species couldn't possibly defeat council dreadnoughts. It was impossible. Ambassador volunteered to lead a diplomatic mission. He was old, respected, skilled at negotiation. He would enter the Sol system under a flag of peace. He would explain that the quarantine had been for humanity's own good. He would offer them a place in the council if they behaved. His ship entered Sol space broadcasting peace in every known language. The transmission cut off mid-word. The ship never returned. No wreckage was ever found. That's when the fear began. 3 council colonies in the Outer Rim went dark in the same week. When investigation teams arrived, they found the planets intact but the council garrison forces gone. The native populations were still there, but they refused to talk. They just smiled and said the humans had given them a choice. More colonies fell. More ships vanished. The council fleet tried to establish a defensive perimeter, but the humans appeared behind their lines. They jumped in ways that shouldn't be possible, appearing in systems without using the standard jump points that every species relied on. Ordered a fleet of 20 dreadnoughts to hunt the human ships. They found them near a mining colony on the edge of council space. The humans had 3 ships. The council had 20. It should have been a massacre. It was, just not the massacre had expected. The human ships moved like they knew what the council fleet would do before the council did it. They slipped between firing solutions, used the dreadnoughts' own weapons against each other, turned debris into kinetic weapons. When the battle ended, 15 council dreadnoughts were destroyed or crippled. The 3 human ships jumped away, damaged but intact. The reports came to his desk in stacks. Human ships attacking here, liberating there, always vanishing before council forces could respond. But worse than the attacks were the defections. Species that had served the council for centuries were joining the humans. Ships were deserting. Colonies were declaring independence. Promoted after the disaster at Sol studied every battle report. She started to see the pattern. The humans weren't just fighting, they were teaching. Every engagement they showed other species how to resist, how to fight back, how to win. They're not trying to conquer us, she told in a private meeting. They're trying to destroy everything the council stands for. Then we'll destroy them first, said, but his voice shook when he said it. The message came on every council frequency at once. It couldn't be blocked, couldn't be jammed, couldn't be stopped. A human woman appeared on every screen in council space. She wore a simple uniform with the rank of admiral on her shoulders. Her face was, her eyes hard. "My name is Sarah," she said, "and I speak for humanity and our allies." Watched from his command chamber, surrounded by military leaders and politicians. No one spoke. They just listened as the human woman destroyed their world with words. 73 years ago, you came to our system. You looked at us and decided we weren't worthy. You locked us in a cage and told us to be grateful you didn't exterminate us. You called it quarantine. We called it prison. His image shifted, showed other species, dozens of them, hundreds, all species that had been classified as Category 7, all species the Council had quarantined and forgotten. You thought we'd destroy ourselves, continued. But we didn't. We watched you. We studied you. We learned everything about you, and we found others like us. Species you'd abandoned, species you judged as failures. We found them. We saved them. We armed them. The image shifted again, showed ships, thousands of ships, different designs, different species, but all working together, all pointed toward Council space. This isn't just humanity coming for you, said. This is everyone you ever hurt, everyone you ever dismissed, everyone you ever looked down on. We're done asking for your approval. We're done begging for our freedom. We're taking it. Leaned forward, her eyes boring into the camera, into every council member watching. You can surrender. You can dissolve your empire and let species govern themselves, or you can fight. But know this, we've spent 73 years preparing for this moment. We know your weaknesses. We know your fears. We know how you think. She smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You locked us away because you were afraid of what we might become. You were right to be afraid. We're coming. And when we arrive, the stars themselves will tremble. The transmission ended. The chambers erupted in chaos. Some demanded immediate military response. Others called for negotiation. A few suggested retreat. Stood in the center of the storm and realized the truth. The Council had made a terrible mistake 73 years ago. They'd looked at humanity and seen primitives. They'd seen violence and aggression and chaos. They'd never considered what would happen if those primitives learned, if they grew, if they came back. Outside the chambers in the cold of space, the first wave of human-led ships crossed into Council Core territory. They weren't sneaking anymore. They weren't hiding. They came in full force, broadcasting their presence, daring the Council to stop them. In her quarters aboard the human flagship Defiance, Admiral looked at the star charts showing Council space. She thought about Earth, locked away and forgotten. She thought about all the species that had suffered under Council arrogance. She thought about what came next. All ships, she transmitted to her fleet, proceed to maximum speed. It's time to end this. Behind her, in the darkness of space, 1,000 ships began to move. They came from 100 different worlds, spoke 100 different languages, but they all moved with one purpose. They came to tear down an empire that had stood for 12,000 years. They came to show the galaxy that no species deserved to be caged. They came to make the stars tremble. The Council's core worlds burned, not with fire but with rebellion. Admiral watched from her flagship as another colony declared independence, the fourth one this week. The Council military tried to respond, tried to hold the empire together, but they were fighting on 1,000 fronts at once. The human strategy was brilliant in its simplicity. They didn't conquer, they liberated. Every world they reached, they gave the same choice: join us or stay neutral. Those who joined received weapons, training, protection. Those who stayed neutral were left alone. Only the Council loyalists faced destruction. Had fought in 37 campaigns over her career. She'd won them all, but this was different. The humans didn't fight like any species she'd encountered. They sacrificed themselves without hesitation. Entire ships would ram into Council dreadnoughts just to create openings for their allies. Pilots would stay behind to cover retreats, knowing they'd die. Why do they do it? Her tactical officer asked after another battle. They could preserve their forces. Why throw lives away? Had no answer. The Council fought to maintain order, to preserve the hierarchy. What did the humans fight for? Freedom, revenge, something else. She started reviewing old records, files from humanity's first contact. The Council observers had noted humanity's strange behaviors, their tendency to help other species on their planet, even those that provided no benefit. Their stories full of heroes who sacrificed for others. Their seemingly irrational attachment to abstract concepts like justice and dignity. Category 7 classification: too emotional, too irrational, too dangerous. But what if the Council had been wrong? What if those traits weren't weaknesses? The realization hit her during a battle near the system. A human ship, badly damaged, had positioned itself between Council fire and a transport full of civilian refugees. Not human refugees. Civilians, a species that had only joined the human alliance days before. The human ship took hit after hit, shields failing, hull breaching. They died protecting people they barely knew. And when that ship fell, 3 more took its place. The Council would never do that. The Council didn't sacrifice dreadnoughts for alien civilians. The Council calculated cost versus benefit, value versus loss. The humans just acted. They saw people in danger and they helped. It didn't matter what species. It didn't matter the cost. Pulled her ships back. Let the transport escape. Her crew looked at her in shock. Admiral, her second-in-command, asked, "We had them." "No," said quietly, "they had us, we just didn't know it yet." On faced the Council leadership in an emergency session. The military faction, led by War Coordinator Al, demanded total mobilization. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon the Council possessed. "We activate the Omega Protocol," Al declared. "The ancient weapons, the reality bombs, the quantum disruptors. We end this war with absolute force." Murmurs ran through the chamber. The Omega Protocol weapons had been sealed away after the Council's founding wars. They were weapons that didn't just destroy enemies. They erased them. removed them from existence so completely that even memories began to fade. "Those weapons are forbidden," said. "We sealed them for a reason. They're genocide weapons." "The humans bring genocide to our door," Al snapped. "Look at the casualty reports. Look at how many worlds we've lost. If we don't act now, there will be no council left to protect." Looked around the chamber, saw fear in every face, fear and anger and desperation. The council had ruled for so long, had been so powerful for so many centuries, that they'd forgotten what it felt like to be truly threatened. "If we use those weapons," said slowly, "we become exactly what the humans say we are: tyrants, monsters, oppressors willing to commit any atrocity to maintain power." "We maintain order," Al shouted. "We brought civilization to 500 species, we ended wars, we created peace. We created a prison," a voice said from the back. Everyone turned. Ambassador stood, her old frame shaking. She'd served the council for 200 years, longer than almost anyone in the chamber. "I was there at humanity's first contact," continued. "I saw them, curious, hopeful, excited to meet other species, and we looked at them and saw only violence. We saw their wars, their conflicts, their aggression. We never asked why they fought. We never tried to understand." She moved to the center of the chamber, facing. "They fought for each other, for concepts we'd forgotten: freedom, dignity, the right to choose their own path. And when we imprisoned them, they didn't forget those concepts. They held on to them, built everything around them, and now they're offering those same concepts to everyone we've oppressed." "Sentiment," Al spat. "Emotional weakness. This is why we quarantined them." "Is it weakness?" asked. "Then why are they winning?" The chamber fell silent, because that was the question no one wanted to answer. How was a single species, locked away for 73 years, now bringing the council to its knees? The answer came 3 days later, when the human fleet arrived at. Admiral stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching the council grow larger on the screens. Around her ship, 1,000 others held formation. Humans, yes, but also, okay, and dozens more. Species the council had classified as Category 7, Category 6, Category 5. Species deemed unworthy or too primitive or too unstable. "All of them here, all of them ready." "Defenses are activating," her tactical officer reported. "Orbital platforms, shield networks, defense fleets, they're not surrendering." Had expected that. The council wouldn't go quietly. Empires never did. "All ships," she transmitted, "hold position. Do not fire unless fired upon. We give them one more chance." She opened a direct channel to the council chambers. His face appeared on her screen. He looked older than in the previous transmissions. Tired. "Admiral," he said, "you've come to conquer us." "No," replied, "we've come to free you." Actually laughed. It was a bitter sound. "Free us. We're the council. We don't need freedom." "Everyone needs freedom," said. "Even those who forgot what it means. We're not here to destroy. We're not here to kill civilians. We're here to end the council. The system that puts species in cages. The hierarchy that decides who's worthy and who isn't." "And you'll decide what replaces it?" asked. "Another empire with humans at the top." "No empire," said firmly. "No hierarchy, no council. Species govern themselves, make their own choices, their own mistakes. That's what freedom means." "Chaos," whispered. "You're offering chaos." "We're offering choice." On surface, Al made his move. Without authorization, without approval, he activated the Omega Protocol. Ancient weapons, buried deep in the planet's crust, began to wake. Weapons that could tear holes in reality itself. Alarms screamed across the human fleet. Their sensors detected massive energy buildups planetside, energy signatures that should be impossible. "They're activating something," the science officer shouted. I can't classify this. It's affecting spacetime itself." Gripped her command chair. "Can we stop it?" "Not from here. We'd need to be planetside in the control chambers." made a decision. Assault teams, full deployment, get to those control chambers and shut them down. Admiral, the defenses. I know, cut him off. We'll lose people, a lot of people, but if those weapons activate, everyone in this system dies. Maybe everyone in this sector. The assault began. Human ships dove through defenses, taking horrific casualties. Drop pods fell like rain toward the planet's surface. Watched the casualty reports climb. Hundreds dead, thousands, but they kept going. They always kept going. That's when made her choice. Her fleet had been ordered to defend, to destroy any human ships that breached the orbital defenses. But she watched those ships die, watched them sacrifice themselves, and she understood. The humans weren't monsters. They weren't conquering tyrants. They were people fighting for something they believed in. And the Council was willing to destroy a solar system to maintain power. All ships transmitted on Council military frequencies. Stand down, cease fire, that's an order. Admiral, her officers stared at her in shock. I said stand down, repeated. Help the human assault teams reach the control chambers. If those weapons activate, we all die, including every civilian on. The Council military network erupted in chaos. Some ships obeyed, others called her a traitor, but enough ships stood down, enough ships helped. The human assault teams reached the control chambers with Council soldiers beside them. Al stood at the control panel, his hands on the activation sequence. Around him, his loyal guards aimed weapons at the doors. When the doors exploded inward, they fired. Humans and Council soldiers fell together, cut down by plasma fire. But more came, always more. A human marine, her armor scorched and broken, tackled Al away from the controls. They struggled. Al was stronger, larger. He threw her off, reached for the activation switch. A Council soldier shot him. Not a human. One of his people, a young lieutenant who'd served the Council his whole life. He stared at his weapon in shock at what he'd done. I'm sorry, the lieutenant whispered, but not for this. The Omega Protocol powered down. The weapons went silent, was saved. In the Council chambers, watched it all on his screens, watched his military fracture, watched his people choose sides, watched everything he'd known crumble. And he made a choice. He stood before the Council assembly and spoke the words he never thought he'd say. I propose immediate surrender, full dissolution of the Council authority, species autonomy for all member worlds. The chamber exploded in argument. Some supported him, others called for his arrest, but kept talking, his voice rising above the chaos. We've already lost, not because the humans are stronger, not because they have better weapons, but because they're right. Silence fell, everyone stared at him. We've ruled through fear and hierarchy for 12,000 years, continued. We decided who was worthy, who deserved freedom, who needed to be controlled, and we were wrong. Every species deserves the right to choose their own path, even if we disagree with their choices, even if they make mistakes. That's what freedom means. He looked around the chamber at the faces of 500 species. The humans didn't come to conquer us. They came to free us from our own arrogance. I vote for surrender, for dissolution, for letting every species here return home and govern themselves. Who stands with me? Slowly, hands raised. One by one, representatives stood. Not all of them, not even most at first, but enough to tip the balance. The Council voted to surrender. Admiral received the notification on her bridge. The Council was transmitting their formal surrender. All military forces ordered to stand down. All member species granted immediate autonomy. The Council authority was dissolved, effective immediately. She should have felt triumphant. They'd won. Against impossible odds, against an empire that had stood for, they'd won. Instead, she felt tired. She thought about all the lives lost, human and alien, soldiers and civilians, people who died fighting for freedom or fighting to maintain order, all the blood spilled to reach this moment. Acknowledge their surrender, ordered. Cease all offensive operations. Begin rescue and recovery efforts for all survivors, council, and allied. She opened a channel to surface to the council chambers. His face appeared. We surrender, he said simply. What are your terms? No terms, replied. No occupation, no revenge. You've agreed to dissolve the council, that's enough. Species will govern themselves, make their own alliances, their own mistakes. We're not here to rule anyone. Stared at her. You came all this way, lost so many people just to walk away. We came to end oppression, said, not to create a new oppressor. We're going home, back to Saul. Let the galaxy figure out what comes next. And the council archives, our records, our technology. Release them to everyone. No more secrets. No more hidden knowledge. Let every species have access to everything the council learned over 12,000 years. Nodded slowly. Then he did something that surprised. He smiled. A real smile, not bitter or defeated, almost relieved. I think, he said quietly, this is the first truly free choice I've made in decades. Thank you, Admiral, for reminding me what that feels like. The human fleet left orbit 3 days later. Behind them, they left a galaxy transformed. The council was gone. In its place, hundreds of species began the hard work of governing themselves. Some formed alliances. Others chose isolation. A few even fought among themselves. But they were free to choose. Admiral stood in what had been the council military headquarters. They'd offered her a position in the new defense force. She'd declined. Instead, she'd requested something else. I want to visit Earth, she told the human liaison officer. I want to understand. How did you do it? How did one species change everything? The liaison, a young captain named, smiled. It wasn't one species. It was everyone who refused to accept that the council knew best. But you can visit. We're not locked away anymore. Come see for yourself. 6 months later stood on Earth's surface in a city called New York. She walked among humans who barely noticed her, just another alien in a crowd. No guards, no ceremonies, no hierarchy. She visited a museum dedicated to the war, saw the names of the dead carved in stone, thousands of names, human and alien, soldiers who'd fought for something bigger than themselves. A human child approached her, maybe 10 years old. Are you a real council admiral? The child asked, eyes wide. Knelt down. I was. The council doesn't exist anymore. My teacher says you helped, the child said. At says you stopped the bad weapons. I made a choice, said, that's all. Was it scary? Thought about that moment, standing on her bridge, knowing that disobeying orders meant the end of everything she'd known. Yes, she admitted, very scary. But you did it anyway, the child said. That's what heroes do. The child ran off to join friends, leaving alone with her thoughts. She looked up at Earth's sky, at the clouds drifting past. This planet, this species, they'd been locked in a cage for 73 years. They could have emerged hateful, vengeful, determined to make the galaxy pay. Instead, they'd emerged with a simple message. Everyone deserves freedom. Had also come to Earth. He lived in a small apartment in Geneva, studying human history and culture. He'd written a book about the council's failures, about the dangers of believing any species had the right to judge another. It had become required reading in hundreds of schools across the galaxy. He met once, in a near the old UN building. They talked for hours about what happened, what might have been different, what the future held. Do you regret it? Asked, surrendering, ending the council. Considered the question carefully. I regret the deaths. I regret that we needed a war to learn what should have been obvious. But no, I don't regret the choice. For the first time in my life, I'm not just following orders. I'm thinking for myself, making my own decisions. It's terrifying. Welcome to freedom, said with a slight smile. How do you handle it? Asked. The responsibility, knowing that every choice is yours alone. We make mistakes, admitted. Humans make a lot of mistakes, but they're our mistakes. We learn from them, we try to do better. That's all anyone can do. Looked out the window at the people passing by. Humans and aliens walking together, living together. No hierarchy, no categories, just people. The stars trembled, he said softly. That's what you said in your broadcast. When humanity came back, the stars would tremble. Nodded, did they? Yes, said, but not with fear, with possibility. You showed us that the galaxy doesn't need rulers, it needs partners, equals. You gave us something the Council never could. What's that? Hope. 3 years after the war ended, a memorial was built on. Not a monument to victory or defeat. A memorial to everyone who died on all sides. Council soldiers and allied fighters. Their names carved together, no distinction between them. At the dedication ceremony, representatives from hundreds of species gathered. No one was in charge. No one gave orders. They came together because they chose to. Admiral gave a short speech. She talked about sacrifice and loss, about the cost of freedom and the price of change. She talked about the future, about building something better than what came before. We didn't fight to create a new empire, she said. We fought so that no species would ever be caged again, so that everyone could choose their own path. That work isn't done. It's never done. Every generation will have to choose freedom again. Choose to respect each other's rights. Choose to work together despite differences. She paused, looking at the memorial wall covered in names. These people chose. They gave everything so that others could be free. Honor them by using the freedom they died for. Make your own choices. Make your own mistakes. Build your own futures. And when someone tries to cage you again, because someone always will, remember what we did here. Remember that no species is too small, too primitive, or too different to deserve dignity. Remember that together, when we roar back, the stars themselves will tremble. The ceremony ended. People dispersed, returning to their worlds and their lives. The galaxy moved on, facing new challenges and new problems. Some alliances held, others fractured. Wars still happened, though smaller ones. Species still disagreed, still competed, still struggled. But no one tried to build another council. No one claimed the right to classify species as worthy or unworthy. And whenever someone suggested going back to the old ways, people remembered. They remembered the war, the sacrifice, the cost of freedom. And they remembered that when humanity roared back, they didn't roar alone. They roared for everyone, and that roar had changed the galaxy forever. On Earth, in a quiet garden behind the War Museum, a simple stone bore these words. They locked us away because they feared what we might become. They were right to fear. We became free, and we made sure everyone else could be free too. Beneath those words, thousands of people left flowers every day. Humans and aliens, old and young, from worlds near and far. They came to remember, to honor, to promise that the freedom won at such cost would never be taken for granted. And in the darkness between stars, where ships traveled freely now without council checkpoints or restrictions, the galaxy continued its ancient dance. But it danced differently now, with more voices, more choices, more possibilities. The stars no longer trembled with fear. They trembled with the sound of countless species, all choosing their own paths, all moving forward together into an uncertain but hopeful future. The roar had faded, but its echo would last forever.